Jake had never seen anything like it before. The walls were made of black stone that shimmered with blue light. Strange symbols glowed softly around the room, dancing like they were alive. He followed Velora, the alien girl who had become his only friend on this strange planet. She walked with confidence, her silver hair flowing behind her and her golden eyes watching him with amusement. "This place is off limits," Jake said, looking around nervously. "I can feel it. Something here doesn't want me inside." Velora laughed, a soft musical sound. "Don't be such a Terran coward," she teased. "This is the relic room where we keep the armor of our greatest ancestors." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Isn't that sacred?" "It is," she nodded. "That's why this will be fun." She stopped in front of a tall stand made of black crystal. On it rested a full set of ancient armor, dark silver with glowing red lines that pulsed like a heartbeat. It looked both heavy and elegant, strong and graceful. "This belonged to my first war mother," Velora said with pride. "She once fought an entire star horde alone." Jake stepped closer, amazed. "And survived?" "She won," Velora grinned. "But it's just a story now." Then she looked at him with a mischievous smile. "Go on," she said. "Try it on." Jake froze. "You're joking." She shrugged. "Why not? It won't respond, not unless you have my bloodline." He hesitated. "What if it does?" Velora laughed again. "Impossible. The armor hasn't responded to anyone in 500 years, not even me." Jake looked at the armor, then back at her. "All right," he said slowly, reaching out. The moment his fingers touched the cold metal of the gauntlet, the room changed. The lights flickered, the symbols on the wall began to glow brighter. A low humming filled the air like a heartbeat. "Velora," Jake said, stepping back. "Something's happening." But he couldn't stop. The gauntlet pulled his hand forward, and the rest of the armor began to move, piece by piece lifting off the stand and attaching to him. Velora's eyes widened. "No, that's not supposed to happen." Within seconds, the armor fully locked onto Jake's body. It adjusted to his shape as if made for him. The helmet clicked into place with a loud hiss. Then the red lines on the armor turned white and a loud voice echoed in the chamber. "Wielder accepted, ancestral flame reignited." Sirens blared throughout the palace. Jake stood frozen, trapped. Inside the armor, his heart pounding. "Velora, get it off me," he shouted, but his voice was metallic, deep, like two voices speaking together. I don't know how," she whispered, her face pale now. "This has never happened before." The chamber doors burst open and palace guards stormed in, weapons raised. "Step away from the human," one shouted. "Deactivate the armor." Velora stood in front of Jake. "No, wait, he didn't mean to." "The armor chose him," one of the elder guards said. "It hasn't chosen in centuries." "That's impossible," another whispered. "He's not of the blood." Jake's body felt strange. He could feel things. Machines under the floor, walls breathing with power. His vision was filled with symbols, data, maps of stars he had never seen. Then came a voice in his mind, calm, ancient female. "You are the heir of the forgotten line, the last fire bearer." "What? What does that mean?" Jake said out loud. Velora looked at him. "What did you say?" "I heard something inside my head," he said, trembling. "A voice, calling me the last fire bearer." The guards looked at one another, their faces, a mix of fear and awe. "Seal the room," one of them said. "No one else must know this yet." "But what's happening to him?" Velora asked, stepping closer. "We don't know," the elder guard replied. "But if the legends are true, the armor awakens only when war is near." "War?" Jake said, still trapped. "What kind of war?" The elder guard looked at him, his voice quiet but heavy. "The kind that burns galaxies." Velora reached out and gently touched the armor, her voice now filled with guilt. "I only meant it as a joke," she whispered. "I never thought it would choose you." Jake's eyes glowed behind the visor. "Neither did I," he replied, as the humming grew louder. Outside, in the sky above the palace, a forgotten beacon lit up. sending a signal into deep space. And something answered. The signal had already gone out, far beyond the stars in a forgotten corner of the galaxy. Something ancient stirred. A long-dead beacon had reawakened, and those who had once feared its light now felt it again, back on the alien homeworld. Jake sat motionless inside the armor. It still refused to come off, no matter how hard the scientists pulled, scanned, or tried to override it. It stayed fused to his body like a second skin. Even worse, Jake could now hear voices, not loud, but constant, whispers in a language he didn't know but somehow understood. Velora stood beside him, arms crossed, her expression filled with guilt and fear. She hadn't spoken much since the armor fused to him. She blamed herself, and Jake didn't blame her. "I told you it was a bad idea," he muttered, his voice metallic. Velora finally looked at him. "You said yes." Jake almost smiled. "You dared me." A team of priests in glowing robes entered the room, their faces serious. One of them held a long staff with a burning symbol floating above it. They bowed slightly and began chanting, surrounding Jake in a circle. Strange lights floated above them. Spinning faster and faster, Jake's body tensed, the armor reacting again. Suddenly, images flashed through his mind. Explosions in space, gigantic ships breaking apart, a warrior in the same armor slicing through enemies with a blazing blade. Then came the face of a woman, beautiful and terrifying, her eyes burning like fire. Jake gasped and stood up, his movement breaking the circle. The chanting stopped. The high priest stepped forward slowly, voice calm but serious. "You saw her, didn't you?" Jake blinked. "Who?" "The first War Mother," he said. "The original bearer of the armor, the one who forged our empire with her bare hands." Jake nodded slowly. "She was inside my mind. She spoke something to me." "What did she say?" Velora asked. Stepping closer, Jake hesitated. She said, "The fire must rise again." The priests exchanged worried looks. "She only speaks during times of coming war," the elder priest whispered. "But the galaxy is at peace," Velora argued. "There is no war." "Then something is coming," he said. "And the armor chose its new champion." Jake stood there, confused and afraid. He had only come to this world as a cultural exchange student. One moment he was learning about alien music and food, and now he was being called a chosen warrior of ancient fire. It didn't make sense. Suddenly, a deep vibration shook the palace. Everyone looked up. A red warning light flashed in the ceiling, and a loud robotic voice echoed. "Unidentified object entering system. Approach vector. Hostile. The year." Council guards rushed in with their weapons drawn. "What now?" Jake asked, heart racing. A hologram appeared in the air, showing a small object moving fast through space toward the planet. No one recognized it, but the armor did. Jake's body turned without his control, and the armor lit up again. His voice changed, echoing with another, older voice. "Dravex signature detected?" Everyone froze. "Did he just say Dravex?" A soldier asked in horror. The Dravex were an ancient enemy, believed extinct for over 1,000 years. They were nightmares from alien history books, beasts of pure destruction. The fact that Jake, or rather the armor, had named them meant only one thing: they were back. The council rushed to prepare defenses, the palace transformed into lockdown mode. Shields rising and energy weapons being loaded. Velora pulled Jake aside. "You have to come with me," she said. "There's something else I need to show you." Jake nodded. "Lead the way." She guided him down a dark spiral staircase. Hidden behind the throne chamber, it led to a place older than the palace itself, a secret vault. There, floating above a stone platform, was a large black crystal pulsing slowly. "This," she said, "is the Heartstone." Jake looked confused. "What does it do?" Velora placed her palm on it, and the crystal glowed bright blue. A hologram of her ancestor appeared again. But this time, she was talking directly to Jake. "You who were never meant to wear our flame now carry it," the hologram said. "The armor accepts your soul. You are not one of us, but that is why you were chosen." Jake stood silently, absorbing every word. Then the hologram's face turned dark. "The Dravex will return, and when they do, our bloodline alone will not be enough. You must awaken the forge. The forge? Jake asked, but the hologram faded. Valora turned to him, eyes wide. It's not just armor, she whispered. It's part of something bigger, something hidden. Jake clenched his fists, the armor glowing faintly. Then let's find it, he said, before the Dravex find us first. Far above the planet, the hostile object had arrived. It was no ordinary ship. It was a living thing, covered in black scales and breathing fire. Inside it, the Dravex Scout Queen opened her eyes and smiled. The flame has returned, she hissed. Let the hunt begin. Valora couldn't sleep. The palace felt colder than usual, the halls darker and the stars above. Too quiet. Something had changed ever since the armor chose Jake. And now, with the Dravex returning, her heart felt heavy with fear. She sat, alone in the ancient library, where walls were covered with scrolls older than her people's written language. Torchlight flickered, and dust floated in the air like memory itself. She unrolled one scroll after another, looking for the stories her elders refused to speak about. Not the stories in textbooks, the real ones, the forbidden ones. One scroll caught her attention. It was sealed with a red wax symbol, 2 crossed blades inside a circle of flame. Her fingers trembled as she broke the seal and opened it. The first line made her gasp. If the armor chooses an outsider, it means the blood of the old kings has thinned. She kept reading, her eyes wide. The scroll spoke of a time before even the first War Mother, when the royal bloodline had shared their power with another species, humans. They were warriors, mercenaries, guardians of forgotten gates. But something had gone wrong, and the humans were banished from records. The last known human champion had vanished. Wearing that same armor, Valora whispered, "This has all happened before." Suddenly a soft sound came from behind her. Jake stood at the doorway, the armor still wrapped around him like a living thing. "I felt something pulling me here," he said. "My dreams are full of fire and screaming stars." She nodded. "The past is speaking to you, and now I think I know why." She handed him the scroll, and as Jake touched it, the symbols began to glow. A hidden map formed in the air, lines of light stretching across star systems, all leading to one name, the Forge of Flame. Jake stared at it, then looked at Valora. "What is it?" he asked. Valora shook her head. "I don't know exactly, but I think it's where the armor was made, and maybe where it can be removed." Just then, a loud knock echoed through the stone library doors. A tall, robed figure entered. The royal archivist, an old alien with deep wrinkles and one silver eye. He didn't look surprised to see them. "So, the flame has chosen again," he said slowly. Valora stood tall. "Did you know this would happen?" The archivist nodded. "I feared it." He walked to a locked case and took out another scroll, this one written in blood ink. He showed them a symbol, half alien, half human. "This was the old alliance," he said, "before it was erased. When we faced the Dravex last time, we didn't survive alone. The human warriors were our shield, our sword." Jake clenched his jaw. "Then why erase them?" The archivist looked ashamed. "Because we betrayed them," he said quietly. "And the forge sealed itself as punishment." Valora's voice broke. "Then why did the armor choose him now?" The archivist replied. "Because the galaxy is about to bleed again, and our blood alone is no longer enough." Suddenly the lights in the library flickered. A red alarm echoed through the palace. Outer perimeter breached. Dravex bioships detected. Jake's heart pounded. "We're out of time," he said. "Where is this forge?" The archivist handed him a small glowing shard. "This crystal will guide you. It was part of the armor once. But the journey won't be easy. The forge lies hidden inside a dying star." Valora looked at Jake, her eyes firm now. "Then, we'll go together." Before they could move, a deep rumble shook the palace, the windows cracked, and distant screams echoed from the city below. Jake turned to the archivist. "Tell me something," he asked. "If the forge unlocks everything, what happens if I open it?" The old man's voice was soft. "Then you may become more than human, or nothing at all." That night they left the palace in a stolen stealth shuttle. Above them, the sky burned with Dravex fire, and below, the old relics trembled as ancient secrets awakened. The armor pulsed against Jake's skin, guiding him now, not with words but with purpose. Velora flew the ship, her hands steady, her face calm, but her mind raced. She had laughed when she dared Jake to wear the armor. Now, she realized, the armor had been waiting for someone like him all along. As the stars streaked past, Jake looked at the glowing crystal in his hand. The path ahead was clear, but the cost? Unknown. In the dark corners of space, something massive opened its eyes. A voice whispered through the void, "The flame returns." And this time, it wouldn't be ignored. The shuttle sliced through deep space, silent and fast. Jake sat still in the back, his armored fingers gripping the edge of his seat. The crystal shard in his palm glowed faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. It was guiding them toward the dying star, to the forge, to answers. But there was no time left. "Something's wrong," Velora said from the cockpit, her voice tense. She tapped the controls, frowning at the screen. Jake stood and walked beside her, his armor making soft mechanical sounds. "What is it?" he asked. She pointed at a blinking red light. "Dravex scouts," she whispered. "They've found us." Jake looked at the star map. 3 enemy ships were already closing in, moving fast. They looked like giant insects made of black metal and bone. One of them opened its mouth and a strange light began to glow inside. "Brace for impact," Velora shouted, pulling the shuttle into a sharp dive. The first shot missed, burning a trail through empty space. The second exploded just behind them, rocking the shuttle and cutting power to the rear thrusters. "We're not going to outrun them," Velora said. "They're too fast." Jake stared ahead, his vision shifting. The armor was doing something, scanning the enemy ships, learning, thinking. Then his voice changed, mixed with the echo of the armor. "Take us closer," he said calmly. Velora blinked. "Closer? Are you crazy?" "They don't expect a counterattack," Jake said. "Let's surprise them." She hesitated, then nodded. "All right, but we only get one chance." The shuttle spun around sharply, heading straight for the lead Dravex ship, its insect-like. Legs moved in confusion, not expecting the prey to charge. Jake opened the hatch and stepped onto the platform. Space wind howled around him, but the armor sealed him tight. Then, from the chest of the armor, a blade of energy formed. It glowed, with golden fire humming with power. Velora shouted through the comm, "What is that?" Jake didn't answer. He leapt into space, the armor boosting him toward the enemy ship like a missile. He landed hard, cracking the shell of the ship. Dravex creatures crawled toward him, spiked and twisted things with glowing red eyes. Jake didn't wait. The energy blade moved through them like fire through paper, each swing faster than the last, his mind in perfect sync with the armor. Inside the shuttle, Velora watched in awe. Jake was moving like a warrior born. Not trained, not taught but chosen, she whispered. He's not just wearing the armor. It's becoming part of him. The other 2 ships turned to fire, but Jake jumped again, slamming onto the second ship's wing. He sliced through its engine core, then pushed off just before it exploded. One left, Jake floated in space for a moment, breathing hard, but something new pulsed through him, a deep voice in his mind. "The flame remembers," it said. "The enemy is old, but so are we." The last ship tried to flee, but Jake landed on it from above. He stabbed the blade into its brain core, silencing the creature ship for good. All 3 Dravex scouts were gone, their bodies drifting lifeless in the stars. Jake returned to the shuttle, landing softly. Velora opened the hatch and stared at him. "You're not the same," she said quietly. Jake took off the helmet, his eyes glowing faintly white. "I don't feel the same," he admitted. "The armor, it's waking something inside me." Velora looked at him carefully. "Are you still Jake?" He smiled, tired but sure. "For now," he said. "Let's keep it that way." They continued their journey toward the dying star. The map showed a storm of energy around the forge, unstable gravity, burning radiation. and massive debris, fields. It was a graveyard of ancient machines. Ships from long-forgotten wars floated in pieces, and broken satellites hummed with dead signals. "This is it," Velora said, slowing the ship. In the center of the storm was a glowing black station, round like a seed, cracked open with golden light shining from within. "The forge," Jake whispered. But before they could move closer, an alert popped up. More Dravex ships. This time, not scouts. Warships. At least 6, closing in from different directions. Jake stood, his armor glowing again. "They knew we'd come here." He said they were waiting. Velora looked at the forge, then at the enemy ships. "If we go in, they'll follow." Jake nodded. "Then we fight inside," he said, gripping the hilt of his energy blade. "I'll hold them back. You land the ship. You'll be outnumbered," she said. Jake looked at her with a calm fire in his eyes, but not outmatched. The forge pulsed once, like a heartbeat welcoming its chosen child. As the shuttle entered its outer gate, the Dravex fleet roared behind. The first strike had come, but Jake was ready, because now, the flame had teeth. The forge was alive. It wasn't just a building or a station floating in space. It breathed, it pulsed, and it spoke, not with words, but with feeling, with memories. As the shuttle passed through its glowing gates, the black surface shimmered and opened like petals welcoming the sun. Jake stood near the exit ramp, his armor glowing white gold. The Dravex warships were still behind them, but for now, they held their distance. Maybe they feared the forge, or maybe they remembered it. Velora brought the shuttle to a stop on a massive circular platform inside the forge. The landing pad lit up underneath them, reading the armor Jake wore. "This place knows you," she whispered. Jake nodded slowly. "It knew me before I knew myself." They stepped off the shuttle and entered a long corridor, walls lined with glowing roots of metal and crystal. Every step Jake took, the lights brightened, the floor reacted, the forge listened. Symbols floated in the air. Old alien scripts, but somehow Jake understood them. "Do you see that?" Jake asked, pointing to the writing. Velora squinted. "It's ancient dialect." Jake read it out loud, his voice mixing with the deeper tone of the armor. "Warborn must walk alone." He looked at her. "I think I need to go further by myself." Velora frowned. "Are you sure?" Jake stepped forward, and the path sealed behind him. The forge had made the decision for them. The deeper he went, the more alive the place became. He felt heat around him, but it wasn't burning. It was like standing near a giant heart, ancient and full of energy. Then he reached a wide chamber with a glowing platform in the center. Floating above it was a ship, unlike anything he had ever seen. It wasn't just made of metal, it was fused with the same living energy as the armor. It looked like a bird forged from stars and flame. A voice echoed around him, not the armor, but something older. "You have come at last," it said. Jake looked around. "Who are you?" "I am the Echo of Flame, keeper of the Warborn." The ship pulsed with light, and suddenly, Jake was pulled into a vision. He stood in an ancient battlefield, Dravex swarms attacking in the millions. At the front stood a figure in the same armor he wore, but it wasn't him, it was her, the first War Mother. She held a burning spear and shouted a single command, "Unleash the Warborn." Jake turned and saw hundreds of ships rising from the ground, each one glowing like fire. They weren't piloted with hands, they were bonded to their warriors. The armor and the ship were one, and the Warborn were unstoppable. The vision faded and Jake collapsed to one knee, breathing hard. The voice returned. "You wear the armor but have not accepted the bond. Do you choose the path of the Warborn?" Jake looked up, eyes glowing. "I choose it," he said. "If it means stopping the Dravex." The platform lit up and the ship descended slowly. Metal tendrils reached toward Jake, wrapping around him gently. The armor hummed with energy as it linked with the ship. Jake's mind expanded. He could see the forge from above, the shuttle, the Dravex ship still circling. He could feel the Warborn ship's heart beating with his own. Back near the shuttle, Velora watched the chamber's outer wall open. The ship emerged, flying slow and smooth, and at its center, Jake stood, no longer just wearing the armor. He was the ship now. The Dravex didn't wait. They moved in formation, weapons charging. But Jake raised one hand and the Warborn ship responded instantly. A single pulse of energy shot forward. Clean, bright, perfect. It tore through the nearest Dravex ship like it was paper. The others scattered, trying to retreat. But Jake was already moving. His mind and the ship danced together, fast, sharp, full of fury and purpose. For every shot the Dravex fired, Jake answered with precision and power. One ship, one human, and one ancient fire. Destroying an entire fleet. Velora watched in stunned silence. She whispered, "He's become something else." But deep in the forge, something else had awakened. A black chamber opened slowly, and inside it, an old, forgotten AI flickered to life. Its red eye scanned the battle above and whispered, "Protocol Emberstorm complete. Final phase begins." Jake returned to the platform as the last Dravex ship exploded in the distance. The Warborn ship floated behind him, silent but powerful. Velora ran to him, eyes wide. "You did it," she said. Jake nodded slowly. "I don't think I was the one who won," he said. "The Forge did." He looked up into space. "But this was just a scout fleet," he added. "They're testing us." Velora stepped beside him. "Then we make sure they never come back." But in the blackness between stars, a new signal began to pulse. Far darker, far stronger. The Dravex Queen had felt the death of her children. And now, she was coming herself. The forge had gone quiet. No more glowing lights, no more pulsing walls. It felt like a deep breath had been held, and now everything waited in silence. Jake stood alone near the heart of the Warborn ship, the armor on. His body was no longer just a tool. It had become part of his skin, part of his soul. But something still pulled at him. A feeling, deep inside his mind, like a memory he didn't know he had. He touched a panel on the ship's core. A soft hum answered him, and then a hidden door opened. Inside was a dark chamber lit by floating golden crystals. In the center hovered a black cube, smooth and silent. Jake stepped closer, and the armor glowed without his command. The cube responded, unfolding like petals, revealing an image. The first War Mother. Her armor shining like a sun, she began to speak and her voice echoed inside his chest. "If you have reached this memory, then the flame has chosen you fully. You are now more than one soul. You are part of a legacy." Jake couldn't move, only listen. "Our kind believed the armor could only belong to us," she said. "But we were wrong. The truth is, the armor was never just ours. It was built from human blood and alien fire." Jake's heart skipped. Was that possible? Could the Warborn be part human? The image changed. It showed a man, human, wearing the armor, laughing with the first War Mother. They stood together on a battlefield side by side. "He was the first," she said softly. "And I loved him." Jake's breath caught. The founder of Velora's royal line had loved a human, but history had erased him. "They feared the bond we shared," the War Mother continued. "So they destroyed every record, buried the truth, and sealed the forge. But I left this memory behind, in hope that one day, another like him would return." Jake felt tears sting his eyes. The armor hadn't chosen him by mistake. It had remembered. It had waited centuries for someone like that human. Someone like Jake, but the vision wasn't finished. The War Mother's face turned dark, serious. "If this memory awakens, it means the Dravex are rising again. Their queen is still alive, and her goal has never changed. She wants to burn the galaxy and silence the flame forever." The room shook suddenly, the crystals flickering. An alarm rang out through the Warborn ship. "Incoming vessel. Dravex class. Queen." Jake snapped out of the vision, heart racing. He ran to the control bridge where Velora waited, her face pale. "It's her," she said quietly. "The Dravex Queen is here." Outside the forge, space twisted like torn fabric, and from the darkness came a ship the size of a moon. It crawled forward, alive with tentacles, glowing with red energy at the center of it all. A massive throne of bone, and upon it sat the queen. She had a face like a spider, a crown of bone, and eyes that never blinked. Her voice rang out in every ship, every mind. "I see you, flame-bearer," she hissed. "You wear her armor, but—" "You are weak." Jake stood firm as the Warborn ship floated toward the monster. "I'm not her," he said. "I'm something new." Velora touched his arm. "She's too strong," she said. "We can't fight her alone." Jake looked at her. "We don't have to," he said. "We have something she doesn't. Hope." He opened the ship's core and placed the crystal. Shard into the chamber, energy surged through the ship. The forge responded, opening ancient vaults. From those vaults rose 5 more Warborn ships, long silent, but now awakening. Jake's voice echoed through the chamber. "All Warborn, rise!" The queen screamed in rage, launching swarms of her spawn toward them. The battle began. Jake led the charge, his ship glowing with golden flame. Velora flew beside him in a second ship, connected through her bloodline. Together they dodged, fought, and burned through the swarm. The queen's ship launched dark pulses that tore through space. One hit Jake's side, and alarms rang inside his ship. "Stabilizers failing," the AI said. Jake gritted his teeth, forcing the ship to stay together. They pushed forward, flying through wave after wave of monsters. At last they reached the queen's throne. Jake stood again, stepping out of the ship in space. The armor wrapped around him tighter, glowing bright. The queen rose from her throne, towering and furious. "You are no warrior," she hissed. Jake raised his blade. "I'm not," he said. "I'm a memory." And he charged. The stars burned red. Explosions lit the void like fireworks in a dying galaxy. And at the center of it all stood one human. Jake hovered in space, armor glowing brighter than ever before. Flame danced along his shoulders, along his arms. He was no longer just a man in armor. He was the flame now, the living memory of an ancient war reborn before him. The Dravex Queen stood tall and monstrous, her wings stretched wide, her bone crown sharp as knives. She laughed, her voice echoing like broken glass. "You fight like her," she hissed, "but you are not her." Jake didn't speak. He raised the energy blade in silence, its white fire humming. Behind him, the other Warborn ships circled, protecting the forge. Velora's voice came through the comm, steady but urgent. "Jake, her core is exposed, but only for seconds between her attacks." "I know," he answered quietly. "I can feel her weakness," the queen charged, her massive body moving like a shadow. She opened her mouth and fired a beam of dark energy. Jake barely dodged, the side of his armor sizzling. Pain shot through him, but he kept going. Each beat of his heart made the flame burn brighter. He moved faster, dancing through her attacks, dodging tentacles, blocking blasts, carving through the swarm. Then he struck. Once, deep into her side. The queen screamed and swatted him away like a fly. Jake flew backwards, slammed into a floating rock. His vision blurred, his limbs shaking. "Jake, fall back," Velora cried. "No," he said, standing again. "This ends now." Inside the armor, something changed. The memories of the first war mother rose again. Her final battle. Her last words. Her love for the human warrior she had lost. "The flame is not a weapon." Her voice echoed in his mind. "It's a promise." Jake understood. The armor wasn't meant to conquer. It was meant to protect, to sacrifice, to shield the galaxy from darkness. And now, it was time to keep that promise. He turned to the Warborn ship still floating behind him. "Transfer core energy to armor," he ordered. The AI hesitated. "Warning, full transfer will result in total structural collapse." Jake smiled. "I know," he whispered. "Do it." The ship pulsed once, then glowed bright. Energy surged through space like a tidal wave. Jake's armor absorbed it all, and for a moment, he became light. The queen shrieked and rushed forward. Jake flew. Toward her, faster than before, faster than light. He dodged her claws, her mouth, her fury. And then, he struck, straight through her chest. The blade of flame pierced her black heart. The queen froze, her body trembling, her crown cracking. She looked into Jake's eyes and saw something she had never expected. Not hate, not revenge, but peace. A soft light spread from the blade. Her body began to turn to ash, drifting into space like dust. She reached out one last time, but Jake was already fading. The explosion came like a second sun, blinding, massive, beautiful. The Dravex fleet shattered, their minds broken without. Their queen. The forge trembled, then went still. The Warborn ships powered down, quiet once more. Velora screamed his name. But Jake was gone. Not a body, not a voice. Only the flame remained, burning gently in the armor, now resting in orbit around the forge, like a star that refused to die. Weeks later, Velora stood in the relic room, the same place where the joke had begun. The armor stood silently on the crystal stand, glowing faintly. She reached out, touched the helmet, and closed her eyes. And in that moment she felt him, not gone but everywhere, watching, waiting, protecting. Behind her, a young cadet entered the room. "Is it true?" the girl asked, eyes wide. "That he wasn't born one of us?" Velora turned, her expression soft. "He wasn't," she said. "But he died as more than any of us." The cadet stepped forward. "Will the armor choose again?" Velora looked at the stars through the window. "Someday," she whispered, "when the galaxy forgets the cost of peace." Outside, in the silence of space, the armor floated once more, a single flame still flickering inside its chest. Not to burn, but to remind that one human wearing ancient alien armor as a joke had become the last light in the darkness, the last flame.